The Toronto Maple Leafs are coming off of a bit of a mixed bag of a season. On the one hand, it was great to finally win a playoff round. However, to be promptly defeated in the next round by the Florida Panthers was not necessarily ideal, and clearly this team has much loftier goals than simply reaching the second round. However, it was a positive step. Now, the Maple Leafs have been incredibly busy this offseason. In the first major bit of news, they declined to renew their general manager Kyle Dubas's contract, instead moving in a different direction to the new GM Brad Treliving. And now Treliving's early days were not necessarily smooth sailing. He did face a lot of criticism, especially in that first month. He made some head-scratching decisions to say the least, some questionable moves in the draft, and after the first day of free agency, he didn't have much to show for it. Many quality players had left the organization. You look at players like Ryan O'Reilly and Michael Bunting, albeit you could argue they had bad contracts. But the only real signing he had after day one was signing John Klingberg, which came with some mixed reactions. I thought it was a nice pickup after the departures of players like Gustafsson, Shen, and Hall, among others. But despite the fact that the first month was a little up and down, I thought he would go on to make some great offseason acquisitions. You look at signing players like Ryan Reeves, a big pickup in Tyler Bertuzzi, albeit to a one-year $5.5 million contract, and Max Domi to another one-year contract, and finally signing Dylan Gambrell to a one-year deal. Personally, I thought that they excellently addressed a lack of much-needed toughness that they were definitely missing in previous years. However, the offseason move I'm particularly making this video on concerns the goaltending of the team. I should mention that a couple of weeks ago, the Maple Leafs did re-sign starting goalie Ilya Samsonov to a one-year contract. Now, Samsonov currently has a neck injury and is probable for the start of the season. Backing him up on the depth chart is Joseph Woll, who may have to start the season depending on the availability of Samsonov with that neck injury. And third on the depth chart was Matt Murray, however he's currently nursing an injury and is expected to be out until at least the start of November. So with all these injuries and Woll, who has a history of injury, the Leafs felt like they needed to address some potential issues and just fill out some more of that goaltending depth, and they made a move yesterday. The Leafs signed veteran goalie Martin Jones to a one-year $875,000 contract. Now you might be wondering, why should you care about the signing of a probable third-string goalie? And I get it, but first let me get into it a little bit. So firstly, the contract is very favorable to a team with minimal cap room to just bolster some of that goaltending depth. Now Martin Jones will need to clear waivers, and he'll most likely serve as the third string goalie, and the Leafs will likely attempt to sneak him through waivers and send him to the Toronto Marlies. Now, if he can get through waivers, then his entire cap hit will not count against the Leafs. So that would be a big plus, especially to a team that's rather cap-strung at the moment. I still get it, nobody's excited about a third-string goalie signing, but it's one of those things where nobody cares about a third-string goalie, and it's a position that doesn't really matter until it absolutely does. And keep in mind, the Vegas Golden Knights, who just won the Stanley Cup last year, used 5 different goalies, proving how important and how vital depth at this position truly was. They were cycling through goalies like crazy and they still managed to win the Stanley Cup because they had a string of very good goalies. Now Jones does have a Stanley Cup ring, albeit he was the backup of the 2014 Los Angeles Kings when they won it, but I'm someone who's pretty high on having that veteran presence, someone who's at least been on a Stanley Cup champion team, somebody who, when they're not playing, they can at least be a very stabilizing voice in the locker room. Now, Jones did have a nice record last year with the Seattle Kraken at 27-13-3. However, he didn't have great other metrics. He had a career worst .886 save percentage and a pretty worrisome minus 21.4 goals saved above average, so not too great. But I could definitely see a world where the Maple Leafs having at least an okay option at that third string could prove vital, especially when you look at Samsonov and Woll, who have a history of injury. So there is that likelihood that he might see some action for the Leafs. And while Woll and Samsonov clearly are coming off of better seasons, neither of them has started as much as half of a full 82-game season. Jones, on the other hand, has started the majority of his team's games on 5 different occasions. And as they say, the best ability after all in sports is availability. So I get it, while not many people care about the signing of a potential third-string goaltender, especially because Jones's best days have passed him by, I do think for the price tag, assuming he clears waivers, and some of the uncertainty around the availability of their other goaltenders, you just never know. And who knows, maybe he could could get some key wins. I get it, not many people will care too much about a third string goalie, but if nothing else, I thought the Maple Leafs had a pretty good offseason, and this was just the latest of their additions. But share your thoughts, and if you want to see more of these hockey commentary videos, please like and subscribe.